Hey, everybody. First new year. Happy 2024. Bringing another episode of the Agent Boost podcast. Lot to go through. Big download, I think, today. I think this is an exciting episode for us because we were just having a discussion talking about putting 2023 behind us, looking forward to 2024. So before we really dig in, we kind of wanted to go through a recap of this last year, maybe start talking about things that happened in the industry in the last year, things that were happening here at Agent Boost Marketing over the past year, just to kind of update listeners, and then kind of shift it more towards what to look forward to and what to expect this next year.
Yeah, absolutely. So I think a good jump off point would we started the year off really well, especially with a lot of our team leads, a lot of our corporate staff and agents. We had our end of the year leadership trip in Hawaii, so it was a great way to kind of cap off the year and get started. And we kind of chose that trip at that time.
We did.
Because it was the least productive generally, as far as, everyone's in that transition mode, that time of the year after Christmas where you don't know what day it is, what time it is, what month it is.
Yeah.
It's that dead time.
I mean, to be candid too, we have carrier partners, the second that it's January 2nd or 3rd, they're like ready with OEP, and we were a little bit behind, but there's really never a good time of year to take a week or go on a trip. But if there is a week of the year, we just thought December 27th, 28th through the 1st, you're stacking those holidays, and let's be candid, the amount of productivity from that week before Christmas to that week after January, very limited production. So we just thought, hey, let's just pull the trigger and do it then. Selfishly, it's also a great time of year for me to get in sunshine and good weather instead of inversion and 13-degree weather.
Yeah, absolutely. We were able to take, some of our key team members here, some of our employees, of course, we're always making sure we're following all the rules and regs in our industry with award trips and incentives and things like that. And it was really cool. I thought one of the highlights for me, even though we're in paradise, was having all of our staff and team members and leaders there on that pier. If you look at our LinkedIn or whatnot, we'll have some beautiful videos of it. But I mean, it was pretty picturesque. I haven't seen a lot of other company awards or things like that are with that backdrop. It was pretty amazing.
Yeah, it was also it was good to connect with some of those people too in a different environment. I mean, we have that good relationship with our staff members and with our brokers, and you do have that rapport, but then to get on a trip with people and really get to know their spouses or significant others, to have fun together and to kind of bond and build a better culture that way is also really valuable. And for the people who are listening that have been in the industry for a while, you learn that it's kind of hard to put a price tag sometimes on the people and the relationship, because it is a relationship business. And the more that we build that and the more that we cultivate that, the more it becomes just ever more important, especially as we look at all these changes and everything happening.
Yeah, absolutely. Nothing builds culture and camaraderie and bonding like almost getting a bunch of our agents arrested doing. Just kidding. We had some good adventures in Hawaii, but we really, like you said, it's great to build those lifelong experiences, because that's really what it's about. It's what this industry is about. Why most people get into this industry is they want to have the financial freedom and the flexibility to go, live these great things in life and experience these, those moments where those are the things that you go back and look for, and those treasured weeks where we have those amazing times at an exotic location, and those are what makes all the hard work worth it,
Yeah. Well, and it feels a little different when you go on a great vacation and you and your spouse or your family, you go on some excursion or do something, and there's the 3 or the 5 of you. It feels different when there's a group of 50 of you,
yeah,
all doing it. So it's kind of, and not only that, I think more than anything too, it's valuable. We always want to really reward, appreciate, and, kind of honor those people who are helping us collectively growing the business and doing a great job, and just recognizing them. Everybody likes a pat on the back every once in a while too. Yep. Doesn't matter what your role is or who you are. It feels good to be validated, So.
Yeah, absolutely. So I think that was, multiple different product lines and things like that, different agent types. It was cool for everybody to go spend that time. And like you said, everybody got to bring a +1. So it's cool to get to know everybody further outside of just the professional side and the work. And, everything went off pretty much perfect without a hitch.
So we checked that box. We did that. talking about next year already, but what else? I mean, for 2023 to kind of update our agents and other listeners and people. So 2023 was a really busy year for us. I mean, if I were to have one word that summarized the year for me, it would be, I would say, either busy or overwhelmed. It's a good thing. We experienced a lot of growth. We undertook a lot of things last year too. So when I look back and I spend a lot of time reflecting, so that I can plan, the strategy moving forward. So a couple key things that we did last year. I don't know the exact number. I'll have to dial it in, but we added roughly almost 80 employees last year, which was a really heavy lift. We also kind of migrated our benefit structure for employees off of like a local platform to a national platform, national access PPO, the 401k benefits. We made a lot of enhancements there. Behind the scenes, there's a lot of work that goes into doing that for a workforce, so that was a big lift. And then we also opened up our Tampa location. 16,000 square foot office across the country is not an easy undertaking. It took a lot of travel, a lot of coordination, a lot of resources to get that place up and running. So we did that.
Why did we choose Tampa?
For a lot of reasons, but number one, we like, from a market, cost of living is very similar here in Utah. It's a reasonable cost of living. I think in Florida, there's a lot of big economic centers or cities there in Florida, but there's a lot of call center activity. There's a lot of carriers headquartered there in Tampa.
A lot of seniors,
a lot of synergy.
Insurance capital.
Yeah, there's a lot of producers out there. We like the labor market. We like some of the opportunities, and so especially bilinguals with a lot of Spanish speakers, we find that as we're doing remote work everywhere, our Latino and Hispanic populations are continuing to grow. In fact, I learned that 20% of our registered voters in Utah are Latinos, so it's like that population, whether you're looking at Arizona, Texas, wherever, it's grown everywhere. And we just continue to have more of a need for Spanish speakers too.
Yeah.
So,
shout out to some of our team members. We have, Ben, who transplanted here from Salt Lake City, moved across the country, and doing a great job crushing it, heading up our Tampa location. We've got some great team members there already.
Yeah, it was work to find a good recruiter there in-house, which we do have a recruiter. We have a good community manager. We have some full-time ACA reps as well as full-time Medicare reps. And we have our second round of hires going in right now. We have a batch of Medicare hires starting Monday, and another one the following week for ACA. So it's,
Yep, it's been a good. That was we got that spun up and executed on that fairly quick, but that was a big thing that we kind of had on our radar for a long time, and that was one of the goals that we had for last year that we were able to hit.
Yep. So we got Tampa up and running, kind of that expansion of physical locations, and obviously we have some plans to how to completely maximize and that potential and that opportunity there. There's going to be 2 to 3 phases of that before it's like fully executed, but we're on a very good trajectory there. And then we also opened up a Mesquite retail location.
Where's Mesquite for most of everybody?
Yeah, Mesquite, Nevada. It is Clark County, not Las Vegas.
Yeah.
It's kind of a little dust pit, in between Utah and Nevada. But there's a lot of retirees around there. Yep. And we just found that, sometimes in business you just have to have the right people, the right opportunity. You have to have these pieces that aligned, and it did align. And so we just found that there was a really underserved population there in that little corner of the world. And, we had a great producer and a partner there. So we made the investment to open up that consumer-facing retail store for health and life and Medicare there in Mesquite. We're right in the big retail mall parking, the big retailer there, a grocery store in town. It's a small town. So
Kroger owns Smith's.
Yeah. It's the only one in town. And so we're just right there next door in a great location, very easy to find. And so that's also been a big undertaking.
Yeah. One of the things that is significant for me is that it shows that we're really hot and believe back in the Main Street insurance agency, back in the local face-to-face. I think a lot of people view us as very strong on the virtual side of things, in addition to our field agents. And, of course, we've done really well with growth there, but it kind of signifies that we do believe that that's still a very ever increasing value prop in markets and communities as things have kind of become so virtual and moved so fast post-COVID and during COVID that there's almost created a counter side of things where people do want to go back to Main Street USA and meet with their agent. Yeah, the boomerang effect. And, that's, probably going to continue to grow in that distribution. But we just like to be diversified. And I think it's important that you as an agent or agency as well kind of have that same philosophy. As you can't be too romantic about the idea of doing one thing a certain way or being the only thing that's going to work, because if you stick to that, the industry will pass you by.
Yeah. And I think we're always looking for those unique opportunities too, where, again, I was looking at an underserved population with not enough access to services. And then we had a producer that we felt comfortable with, that we had a relationship with, that we trusted, that we felt like we could invest in. And so we're going to continue to look for those kind of unique opportunities as things progress in these next coming years. If we have, again, some small town communities, like, you think of small town America, middle America, where you have one plumber in town, one real estate agent, one insurance guy, those are still great opportunities. And so if you're even hearing this and you're thinking to yourself, those are good opportunities for you. If you're seeing that there's a small town 30 minutes away, we have a lot of producers that do great opening up a brick and mortar, open up shop, serve the community. And we really do feel like there's a lot of value in us reaching those little corners of the world where those people need the help too.
Yeah. One thing I wanted that kind of sparked something for me is a lot of people don't know, but you and I actually, when we got started in this industry, we built our entire books of business basically going off the beaten path. And, here Salt Lake City is not necessarily known as the massive metro, but everybody wanted to work in town, wanted to kind of go serve that population within 20, 30 minutes of them. Mm-hmm. And Dan and I both built our books of business, driving an hour or two away to the north of the state to these more rural communities. And what we found was just by kind of going off that beaten path a little bit and working where others didn't want to, we were able to establish ourselves and write, really good quality people. The people up there generally on these, I don't want to say necessarily super rural, but like outside of the main metro areas, maybe more suburban type areas, they generally tended to be healthy. They were very enjoyable to work with, very appreciative.
They referred often.
And
very loyal. They stick better than the rest of your book.
Yeah. I mean, we still have clients on the books that, we put on there 14 years ago, 15 years ago. And so there's definitely, you got to be strategic. And that just kind of sparked something in me where I thought it was definitely worth the extra investment of time and resources and gas or whatever it took to go out. And even my last year, I actually sold in the field. All I did was go to rural communities, and it was actually much easier to establish myself as a source of authority there and a professional when I didn't have really any good competition out there.
Yep. So again, underserved America, we're trying to reach those little corners and find ways to help and serve those communities. I think there's going to be significant opportunities for that as we continue to move forward. What else happened in 2023? We added some employees. We opened up Mesquite. We opened up Tampa.
Yeah, we definitely outgrew this space. So we had to take, we have the entire first floor of the building where we're at now. We ended up taking.
We had half of the second floor.
Yeah, half the second floor.
We kind of already outgrew the floor, started taking on the second floor. We outgrew it. And so we found space this year. We've actually, our lease is good. We have a new office we'll be opening up. It's double the size of our current one here in Salt Lake. So we have a 25,000 square foot office that we're actually, getting ready for use right now as we speak. And I think we're going to be doing that transition here in the next, 6 to 8 weeks in our new location. And then obviously be putting up announcements, open houses, all that kind of stuff too.
Yeah, I'm really excited, and it's been cool to see the evolution growing into some more, Class A office space with amenities that are second to none. I'm really excited. We've got a big auditorium where we're going to be able to do large trainings, carrier kickoffs, broadcast our weekly sales meetings, things like that. Cafeteria and kitchen, private chef on staff, salons, select access to a gym and things like that for our corporate employees, and room for a lot of salespeople. There's just a lot of synergies there at that new HQ. and I'm really, really excited about the potential future growth that that'll provide us too.
Yeah, absolutely. So that's been very, time encompassing. So for listeners who are like, yeah, I wonder what is Dan up to? I haven't talked to him in a while. Unfortunately, I have been very, very busy doing, finding space, doing lease negotiations, and trying to kind of get operationally these things set up and running and functioning. And at the end of the day, sometimes I want like listeners to know that, and if you are one of our agents, I'm very, very involved in everything day to day. It's just I don't have as many touch points as I want directly with agents, but just know that we're always working hard behind the scenes to ultimately, in the big picture, make things better, enhance support for agents, provide more value, make your lives easier, find solutions. And even if you're not talking to me directly about things, I'm working very, very hard, for agents to try to make it better for them. So.
Yeah, a couple of those big goals that we had for 2023 that we were able to execute on. I think really executing on our plan to get into ACA full speed and not just get into it, but really establish ourselves as a major player on the national scene and align some really great top contracts and partnerships across the country. And I think we executed even on what we expected for that.
Yeah, and there was that balance too, where we put so much emphasis and focus on growing that division that it was more of a challenge because we needed to, at the same time, continue to grow our core lines of business like Medicare and even our life and annuity sales. So the nice thing about in 2023, we actually grew our life and annuity sales significantly. It was a very minimal product that was ancillary to, we had full-time people on the phones selling life products. We actually grew that division significantly, way more than we had even anticipated or put as our goals. We still continue to grow our Medicare division and our overall Medicare sales by almost 20% year over year, maybe even more. And then in conjunction with that, really go heavy on that ACA division. So we were able to, spin up those new divisions, have them growing and executing, bring in people from an operational perspective to train and support and grow those. And it was a big undertaking.
Yeah. One other thing that I really liked last year was because of COVID and the way that this industry is, this industry is very fraternal at the top. And, we get along great with a lot of our quote unquote competitors across the country, other FMO owners. And we have a lot of honestly friends in the industry. And it was nice that the kickoffs and the carrier, the meetings and all the national rollouts kind of were in full effect again. And so it was nice to go out and spend time with a lot of the national leadership of a lot of these carriers. Some of the highlights for me, we're going to Nashville with some of our carriers multiple times and some of the other places, going to the national rollouts and cultivating those relationships. And so it was good, like Medicarians and things like that, where you and I we've laid pretty low as far as like the social national scene in the industry, but last year we kind of got a little bit more forward facing and kind of fraternized a little bit more in the industry, and that was nice. That was a good goal too.
Yeah, I'm actually glad we're doing the podcast now, but it did take me a lot of prodding for years. For many of you probably feel the same way. I actually hate hearing myself, and I hate seeing myself on camera, but at the same time, I was like, you know what? We just have way too much industry information out there. There's so much content, and we need to get it out there, and I can just suck it up and deal with the fact that I don't like listening to myself. But at the same time, we found that there were other voices in the industry that just were not very knowledgeable, reputable, or anything else that were starting to put out content. And from my perspective, I'm just going, well, this is a shame. This is a miss. If there's actually agents out there looking for content and information, and we're allowing person X, Y, or Z to pump out the content, they're not even a great source of information or truth. So we really just made the decision that we're not going to miss the boat on that.
Yeah, I kind of posted about that last night on LinkedIn, and it was kind of the power of one, and that was a concept that I'd learned from Gary Vaynerchuk, where he basically talked about it doesn't matter if only one person listens or sees your post or whatever, but if you reach that right one person, it can be a complete game changer and difference. And, we were just talking about how we've seen a tremendous lift and impact from the podcast already, even though, truthfully, we're not getting millions of listens. Of course, that this industry is very small and niche and doesn't really appeal or interest a lot of people. But the people who are listening, it's done a good job of kind of, sell. I don't want to say selling the story, but letting people know what's going on behind the scenes. And I guess kind of people have a better idea of our experience in the industry. And it's honestly been really helpful for a lot of people. And so that energy.
Yeah. And helps them stay relevant.
Yeah.
Things that are happening.
It continues to carry through and make it worth it for us. We sit and we spend money, and Omar comes and does a great job and produces this. And we spend our time, once a week doing it. And it's totally been worth the effort.
Absolutely. So I think getting
the podcast going was another big thing that
it was another big thing that we tackled last year. So, I mean, turning the page over, hopefully, you're having the same kind of thoughts and experience at this point of the year where you're looking back at 2023 at what was successful for you, what was not, what your strategy is going into the next year. So, for us, same thing. We have a lot of growth goals. We have our established, goals as far as Medicare from a app count perspective, and same with like a revenue perspective. We have the same with ACA as far as production and revenue, same with life and annuity. So every one of our divisions, even ancillary, we have those targets and projections and forecasts for this coming year. We're optimistic that we're going to actually achieve and surpass all those in the different divisions. We also obviously we've grown so much, we want to take a year to really focus more on operations, efficiencies, data and reporting, technology, optimization. So this year, you're probably in 2024, you're probably not going to see us opening up, another location or multiple others. You're going to see us focusing on really dialing it in and making things very at a granular level to make sure things are very efficient and good before we can continue to scale and grow even more. However, don't mistake that. We still do actually have a goal, which I'm fine sharing, of onboarding 1,000 new partners this year, or agents or affiliates. And actually we're very much on pace with that already. Our front end team who's doing agent recruiting and onboarding people, we almost had to tell them to hit the pause button during the holidays because they were just onboarding agents so quickly that, the carriers were out of office, and, we had staff members out of office for the holiday, and we really couldn't even facilitate that for about a week or two.
Yeah.
But yeah, I'm okay in sharing publicly that our goal is to bring on 1,000 new producers this year, and I think we'll actually do that.
Yes, Dan, you mentioned that kind of the goals. I don't know if we talked about it or not, but we actually met for about 3 or 4 solid days with some of our upper management, and we already did all of our goal setting and kind of forecasting and back in November. And so for us, and this doesn't just apply to this industry, but everybody, that time of December, Dan mentioned a lot of the carriers. It was almost like December 10th hit and all we got was out of office, a lot of these corporate people. But we actually, not to toot our own horn, we grinded like crazy, not just Dan and I, but our whole staff right up until the time where it was actually Christmas Eve, and then we went on the trip to Hawaii. But we got a lot done, and I think that there's actually, for you as agents and business owners, there's a lot to be said of not letting too much momentum slide away towards the end of the year. I mean, I know a lot of people in a lot of industries that Thanksgiving hits and they're like, I'm out for till January 10th, and they almost let 2 months of the year kind of go without there being any significant progress. And we didn't do that. It's been nice to kind of come back. And in fact, we probably felt like even just going to Hawaii over New Year's, we came back and had a whole list of stuff to kind of already get unburied from. But our goals are set. That 1,000 agents, oh yeah, we're definitely on track to hit that. Probably blow that out of the water, to be honest. But it's like you said, how can we help those people? I do feel like the industry agents need more guidance than they've ever needed before in the industry, just because there's so much always changing.
Isn't that ironic too, that you're just saying that it's more sophisticated and complicated and the agents need more guidance than ever before? Simultaneously, at the same time that we have a call letter talking about reducing support or funding for agents or funding for FMOs in certain ways. And ironically, that's the time that, they're talking about reducing that. Those two things do not align with one another.
Yeah, that'll be, we have our goals and how the industry, what we want to accomplish, we can talk about, in addition to the agent onboarding. But I think that the industry as a whole a little bit is kind of feels like they're a little paralyzed with waiting to see what CMS actually does with this call letter. So
yeah, we already did a whole nother thing on the call letter, a whole nother podcast episode. I think we could have done 15 podcast episodes. Almost, yeah, there's 12 in that executive summary. We could have almost done an episode on every one and talked about them ad nauseum. But I will say that I agree. It feels like right now for about an 8-week period, because we should hear back something on that call letter end of, I don't know, sometime in March is when I'm guessing we'll hear back on that call letter. So, but it is weird for about 6 or 8 more weeks where we're kind of sitting around going like, okay, how much of this is going to be taken? Like I always say, like 90% of it's going to go into effect because they have their minds made up. I think they're probably going to get back more comments on this call letter than they ever have in the past. I think I've already seen that. It's significantly more comment, but regardless, I think the administration's been tone deaf. I think most of it's going to go into effect. But we're just kind of waiting to see. So I think that there's carriers that are going, well, hey, do we continue to pay out some of these initiatives that are under scrutiny right now? Do we continue to fund FMOs like we have? And are we changing our processes? Carriers are already meeting with like their legal and compliance departments, trying to figure out how they're going to navigate it and saying, here's scenario A, B, and C. And so there's a lot of that going on right now, in addition to the normal filing for benefits, war games, benefit structures for next year, all that kind of stuff. So,
yeah. So as we kind of set our goals for 2024, and I don't know how specific, we want to get but we have a lot of things that we have pegged for this year. We do want to significantly grow our ACA distribution even further than what it is right now is a big goal of us. We have great partnerships with Health Sherpa and our carrier partners, and we're going to be testing and implementing some things
correct
there that are going to be kind of game changers, I feel like.
I think so too.
We
always like to talk generalities, and it's not because we're trying to be vague, but sometimes we have, I think, very good, we come up with strategic and tactical, and I think we do a great job of both, of coming up with and actually executing. But there's always that power of our strategy that we don't want to put out completely out there to the market. I don't feel like I need to help out my competitors. So, there's always that idea of, we're happy to share information and have the generality out there, but I'm not going to be extremely specific.
Yeah. And one more thing that we've already seen on just in the past 30, 60 days on the ACA side is where we've already seen some tightening of the industry there. They really did crack down, thankfully, on a lot of the AOR and the bad business practices and what people are calling NPN overrights and things like that. And most of the carriers have already kind of closed some of those loopholes, and we're seeing, that's a big benefit to the industry, in my opinion. But what that's going to do is that just gives people like us that have been doing it the right way, and our agents and our brokers and our agency partners, a leg up, because when we've always been doing it the right way, all that does is make it harder and more difficult for the bad actors and the people who weren't really doing the industry, and I would call it good faith. And so we're already seeing a lot of that stuff kind of moving just in the past 60 days.
Yeah, and specifically, United Healthcare has always been great about it on their under 65. Not a lot of shenanigans there, but companies like Ambetter, they made it to where someone can't just willy-nilly log in and change and overwrite and say that they're the agent of record. They locked it in for the year. So now, at least with your Ambetter book of business, you can't do an agent of record change for that calendar year. That broker stays on there. So I assume there's going to be some brokers that are going to try to rewrite people onto other carriers now or other things like that, but they did help curb that. Cigna's made some improvements as well. Companies locally like Select Health will make it to where there's a separate form that has to be wet signature signed by the consumer in order to change the AOR. So to your point, there are some very, distinct initiatives that are happening from the carriers to try to curb it and change it, all in an effort, of course, hopefully to make it to where the government does not have to intervene and that the market and the carriers are solving the problem, hopefully. Mm-hmm. So, yeah, we did see a lot of positive changes there, with that already in 2024.
Yeah, so we also have, we want to make sure that we fill out the rest of our Tampa location with staff. We have some room there and some room for growth there. Same with our new Lehigh location. And then I think in addition to the agents that we're bringing on, we're kind of courting or have been in contact with a lot of agencies.
Yep.
It seems like there's a lot of movement, even when kind of that mid-level GA to MGA, SGA type level that are looking for support and tools and guidance in the industry outside of just co-op dollars, right? I think that there's been some stagnation in the industry where people haven't really had that mentorship or that guidance, and the solution has been, well, let's just kind of solve it by throwing some bucks at you, you know, some additional co-op dollars, or even buying people to join certain agencies or uplines by saying, hey, come over with us, we'll give you this contract, but we'll also give you this, you know, lump sum of cash here. And that's, once that cash is gone, there's no more cash, you know, there. And not only that, you know, that's the exact kind of stuff that's in the crosshairs of CMS right now. And so all those mid-level agencies are looking and going, hey, I really need to find a way to be effective and to add value for my agents and to be able to get in front of consumers and do it in a quick, efficient way. And we're finding a lot of agencies are discovering us, and I think we have more movement that way than we've seen in a long time too.
Yeah, I think we always have anywhere from like 3 to 10 agencies kind of in the hopper, so to speak, where they reach out and say, hey, and we just kicking the tires, right? Hey, what can you guys do for me? And so at any given point, like we have a handful of new agency partners coming on, and yeah, what we always, it's like that whole, do you want to give someone a fish or teach someone to fish, right? And so that's what we always equate it to when agencies are, you know, trying to vet out and scope like, hey, who are they going to partner with? That's great where you have a high contract level or you have dollars that they give you one time. But like you said, once that money's spent, it doesn't solve the problem. Then the money's gone. Where's the growth, and what's your strategy? And are you aligned with a partner where you're actually going to be able to effectively have a strategy and grow your business? And that's what most people want. So to my response is usually, hey, what are your pain points? What are your problems? What are you trying to solve? And we're always trying to find a way that we can partner and solve those problems, not just throw money at somebody. I think that's lazy. And I think that's just, it's under the microscope anyway. But I don't think that really solves a lot for a lot of these agency owners.
Yeah, 2023, we saw a lot of that money dry up, right? Like 2022, money was flowing. You know, everybody had spare cash. There was a lot of mobility moving around with agents and agencies. And then 2023, that kind of all started becoming a little bit more solidified. And so we're seeing people going, yeah, exactly that.
Yeah, there's more movement a little bit in the industry right now, which is great. We like to see people having the ability to, and let's be honest, some of the carriers we talked about in the previous podcast, they changed their release rules. And so with that lightening up and making it easier, I actually really like the fact that like, hey, I don't like where I'm at. If my current like agency or FMO doesn't release me or let me go somewhere, I'm just going to, you know, do the other process. I'll wait the 90 days now. It's very friendly and people are able to do business with who they want to do business with. And some of the old carriers just had very old, antiquated, ridiculous release policies. I'll still call out like, you know, Ambetter as they still need to fix that. You know, they are one of the outlier carriers that, you know, if somebody doesn't want to release them, you could have an agency principal who's not paying them commissions, who's, you know, holding their book of business, that they was never disclosed that they don't own their clients. And they're like, hey, I want to go somewhere else. And they can just not release their contract. That's not in line with other carriers in the industry. You know what I mean? It's just not. So, but for the most part, the carriers have made it super easy to move. And I think that's also facilitated some of the movement within the industry. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Well, what other, you know, kind of big things do we have on the horizon for 2024? We're in the season of, there's some trade shows coming up. You know, some industry networking.
Before we talk about that, we're going to be on the road more than ever before. I think next month you're in ICMG in Florida, right? Where we're trying to connect with other business owners, other agency owners, people who are pertinent and relative in our industry, whether it be a lead vendor or a tech company or whoever, making more connections. We always go to LeadsCon now. So AJ will be at LeadsCon. Heather, our compliance officer, she'll be at NAHU NABIB. I hate that acronym. I'm going to get crap for it, but NABIB, it's a stupid acronym. She's going to be at that Washington conference end of February. You know, we'll be at Medicarians. What else we got? We got a couple more coming up, but we got at least probably 6-7 different trade shows that somebody will be at with a heavy travel schedule. The other thing that we are doing this year that we haven't, that I want to talk about, was we found a lot of success in our virtual agents or hybrid agents. Like we talk about ad nauseum. I don't mean to sound like a broken record, but we just don't feel like an agent should be like field agent or a telesales agent. It's just the way that people do business now is like, it just doesn't matter if you're in front of somebody at the kitchen table or you're 3 states away. It just, we have technology to be able to do both. And so we just look at hybrid agents, and we had a lot of success finding good agents in other states. And rather than us trying to fly around to 17 states, bringing people in and actually having those partners come into our home office and spend a few days of hands-on training, actually learn our systems more, with some hand-holding and some instruction and guidance and with team leads and with structure. And we're really ramping that back up this year with all of our new agent onboards, where we're offering in-person live training sessions every month. And I think we have at least 7 or 8 of them on the schedule this year. And then another part of that is actually getting to see the operation and getting to see our company and know the people that they're doing business with. And knowing who is our compliance officer. I've actually met this person supporting me. And then being able to go to dinner and do activities with those people, and being able to, again, I feel like when people are independent insurance agents out there, they're just on their own. There's that sense, that lack of community or belonging or being a part of something. And so even with our independent agents, we're trying to facilitate that relationship more and have those people here with us and actually really ramp up those in-person training sessions.
Yeah, it's been awesome. It's been great for us too to get to know people of all different backgrounds and communities and states and experiences, and come out and build those long-lasting relationships. And one thing that I'll say is, agents that are performing and producing usually will pick that up the tab there and bring them out, fly them out. Mm-hmm. Or if they're new and they want to invest in that themselves, we allow them to do that, and then they have the potential to be reimbursed for that. But I will tell you this, the agents who are willing to invest anything into their own success, invest into training, invest into going to, experiences or conventions to learn or to level up in any way, shape, or form, those agents are the ones that generally have a much higher success rate in the industry. I don't want to say that it's foolproof, but, there's a lot of agents that we'll see come in, they don't have any dollars, or they're unwilling to invest or take any risk or put any skin in the game themselves. They want somebody else to do everything, take all the financial risk, provide everything, and they don't have that autonomy or aren't willing to put any skin in the game. And those people generally have a much less chance of success, and are the ones that are kind of washing in and out of the industry very quick. So, whether it's with us or doing that, those in-person trainings, a piece of advice for you agents is, are you an agent that's willing to invest in your own success, take some risk, put some skin in the game, whether that be investing into tools, into lead structure, into training, whatever it is? There's a big correlation there between our agents that are successful and the ones that maybe don't ever find that.
Yeah, and maybe it'll be our next podcast episode or a few after, because we have some guests coming up, but we ought to talk about our bundled enhanced services and stuff that we're offering for agents this year too.
Yeah.
So, because we really did figure out that, there's all these, as we evaluate the industry and how everything's changing, there's needs that agents have, and we identify those needs and we know what they are. But, candidly, we're somewhat limited with our reimbursement amounts with admin fees and things from carriers and what we're paid as an FMO or an IMO.
Yeah, don't you know it's already too much money according to CMS?
Yeah. So it's limited, and so it's like just for an example, let's say that an agent is going to go sell a Medicare Advantage plan. Well, the agent is going to make, what is FMV for 2024?
311.
311 and 611. Mm-hmm. Okay, so 311 and 611. That's
yeah.
the national rate, right? So let's say an agent goes and sells a Medicare Advantage plan. They're going to make either 311 or 611, and the FMO, maybe we're going to make 150, 175, 200, maybe. It just depends on the carrier, the contract. But the point is that the agent has more, obviously, dollars in that transaction than the FMO does. And so we're somewhat limited as to how much support we're able to provide. So we've kind of identified a bunch of other services agents want, and we'll be able to kind of bundle that together and offer it to people and just solve the problem and make it a lot easier. And we'll probably talk about that on another episode too. So that was another thing for 2024, that we're trying to look ahead and solve problems before they become a problem, really, too.
Yeah, the other thing that I think that we've done is we're increasing our marketing, our social media presence, our advertising. We actually got our first agency we're recruiting off of TikTok.
That's true, right? Yeah, we did, yeah.
Which we're doing a good job of all that kind of stuff.
Do you approve, Omar?
TikTok, Reels, in YouTube shorts, all that kind of stuff. We're having success putting out content, and it's coming back to us, and the fruits are paying off. And so that's been a big strategy for us too, is to, really expand the presence and the marketing and all that as well. So I think that's a big goal that we have for this year.
One overarching theme is that I am not a flashy person in general. It's not my style. But I've just learned that we just need to become more front-facing and more visible out there. So you'll see that theme, I guess, industry-wide, whether it's these conventions and travel and podcast and content and things. You're probably just going to see us being a lot more visible rather, as a generality. And you're going to see that a lot more in 2024, and that's going to be one of our big goals too. So
I'm always trying to push Dan to be a little more flashy, a little more out there, a little more market-facing, present.
Yeah, so I've agreed to do a much better job. So, my skill set is not, my great voice or my presentation or anything else. Those are not my great skill sets. But hey,
I think you're selling yourself short.
Yeah,
it stacks up really, really well with a lot of other people in our industry for sure. I think you come out on top.
Yeah. So hey, a couple things I think I don't know what we're at on time, but a few things for 2024 that I thought, we got 10 more minutes maybe.
Yeah, sub 10. Yeah.
Okay. So I think there's a couple updates that we should throw out there that are just quick. This is like I'm back in homeroom, world in a minute, kind of a thing where we can, and you have to be probably as old as me or older to understand that. If you're like in your 20s or 30s, you can be like, what the hell is he talking about?
Yeah.
Anyways,
as I just said, we were going to market to young, like on TikTok and YouTube.
We're going to do the Lisa Ling and the Anderson Cooper world in a minute. Yeah. All right. A couple things for 2024. Number one, hey, remember, if you're selling Medicare, the catastrophic, so with the gap or catastrophic coverage, there's no long, when somebody hits that catastrophic phase on their Part D costs, there's that 5% catastrophic, that's gone away. So for your clients that are hitting the donut hole or the gap every year, eliminating that 5% catastrophic is probably going to save them some money. So that's new for 2024 for those listening. So that's a very, very positive and good thing for you all out there. The other thing to kind of keep on your radar are these other two things. The MMPs are supposed to be going away at the end of this year. However, I know there's some states with the MMPs that have already filed for a stay, kind of to extend them operating for another year. So some of those MMP states are actually going to, unfortunately, I wish they could be gone tomorrow.
MMPs are Medicare, Medicaid plans.
Yeah, so they're kind of like quasi-state-ran DSNP plans in certain markets. And if you're very versed and proficient with Medicare, you'll probably know those states like Ohio and Texas and South Carolina. Anyway, there's a bunch of them. But anyhow, some of them have filed stays, and they're going to stick around and linger for another year, causing us more heartburn and pain, unfortunately. So that's an update for you. The other thing to watch is this call letter from CMS. We don't know what the ruling is. One of the 12 provisions was the reintroduction again of the lookalike plans, that they had done so much work for years to eliminate the dual DSNP lookalikes, and the provisions in there to kind of allow lookalikes to come back, and not only come back, but the threshold is lower, meaning that they're going to allow more people on those lookalike plans who are not duals than even before. I'm not a fan of it, but
yeah, it's kind of a hack solve job since all the Medicaid redetermination kind of came back into effect. It's kind of filled that gap in a ad hoc way.
Yeah, I don't like it because obviously the carrier administering it doesn't have a state contract on Medicaid. It's not integrated care, and then when you really look at, they're not getting the full DSNP funding because of that, so they're only getting the standard Medicare Advantage reimbursements. People don't get case management. So it's like a completely different chassis. You're just on a Medicare Advantage chassis, so to speak, but you're not on a DSNP chassis, and that person, that life is not getting the same kind of support that they would on a fully integrated like dual plan. Mm-hmm. So anyways, that's a whole nother topic, but kind of keep that on your radar. We'll have to see what happens on the call letter. The other thing to be aware of is during Q4 that LIS and dual special election code goes away, and now it's back. So you have 2 election codes to start using. If you're selling Medicare, you can obviously use OEP for people who are already on a Medicare Advantage plan if you're doing a plan change. Or if they're low income or dual, you can now use that election code again. It is back open. And there's also a lot of DST codes. So the FEMA DST codes, all the carriers, if you're watching your inbox and you're appointed with multiple carriers, you probably get 357 emails a day like I do. about DST and this and that, but they are saying, hey, the FEMA COVID disaster is no longer valid. However, if I were to look right now, there's probably 30 states throughout the country who have valid disaster or declared disasters, and there's a valid election code.
There's disasters everywhere all the time.
Yeah. There's a disaster for flooding. There's a disaster for drought. There's a disaster for gas shortage. There's a disaster for, almost anything.
What was it? There was a disaster for someone's funeral last month. Like Jimmy Carter's wife's funeral or something like that.
It's ridiculous.
There's
a traffic jam on the freeway. So if you were driving across town to meet with a broker to enroll in an advantage
special election period.
Yeah. So, there's a lot of those, and the carriers will send out communications as to like what the valid reason is. So we're not telling you to abuse it, but we are just saying that it's business as usual. So, and the other thing you find is that, remember, I actually like OEP and lock-in far better than I do AEP. And I wish the carriers would get on the same page with me. They still want to like bang this drum and hammer us for like, it's AEP. It's the big enrollment season coming up. And my point is that it's not as great as it used to be. You don't do 50, 60% of your business or 70% of your business during AEP. All the business and growth happens throughout the year, like we've said many times. And so I just don't understand the gigantic push for AEP anymore, the emphasis on it. Yeah, there's like an uptick in production and sales, but it's that slow and steady that wins the race throughout the year. And if you're out there hitting the markets right now, we actually find we write more business in OEP than we do AEP. And we write great business throughout lock-in, and that's just because in AEP you have a limited number of days. In OEP you have like 3 full months. You have more calendar days to work, and so we actually sell more. And there's less competition because, let's be honest, everybody crawls out of the woodwork during AEP to sell.
Yep. Call centers ramp up, hire more people.
They hire more people. Their spends are higher. They're blown through their budgets, and then
trim the fat after. Yep.
And then OEP. There's less competition, and so there's less spends, and same with lock-in. And so
a lot of the agents take off their Medicare hat and put on their accounting hat, and do taxes or whatever they do, or they put away their computer and briefcase for 3 months and then start paying attention in the middle of the summer when AHIP comes out again.
Yeah,
so it's just much.
So hey,
the opportunities there.
60% of your competition is not going to work now until September again. So that is something to very much keep in mind and be thoughtful of at this moment, is really get to work, and you're going to find that, you're going to be very, very effective if you're actually out there trying right now. So that would be one important message, is those SCPs, going to work, having that OEP back, the lookalikes, MMPs. And then the last thing that I would touch on too, if you're doing ACA, it's very, very similar. They extended open enrollment obviously until the end of the month. By all observations, it was the biggest open enrollment season they've ever had for ACA, but there's no signs that they want to slow down or stop. And so I think that to me, I'm not going to say anything out there, but I'm just saying that I think if you write throughout the year, rarely are you going to have carriers kicking out or rejecting your applications. So I think that,
well, there's valid election periods, just like on the Medicare side of things.
Well, and if people are below and if you're writing ACA, that almost everybody's getting a subsidy, and if they're at that 0 level, then you can just do it year round.
Qualifying life events, SEPs, things like that. Yep.
So I just want to say, I look for reasons to be busy and be writing business and growing the business, not excuses to hang my hat on as to why I can't work very much or why I'm only not doing this because, I'm having to wait until the next open enrollment season or AEP or whatever that is in order to go grow my business and go make money. That's not valid. So I would just say be looking for reasons and opportunities to go grow it, not reasons why you can't. That would be my biggest thing. And then just the last little note is also we're going to continue to see Medicare Advantage growing. It's already hit past the 50% mark. But one really important thing is there's more and more companies eyeing getting rid of their retiree benefits. Kind of polarizing if you're familiar with it. Some of them offer phenomenal retiree benefits that are extremely expensive.
Very few.
Other plans are offering retiree benefits that are really subpar, that are actually not even as good as what's out there in the retail or the normal marketplace. And it's quite a disservice to some of the retirees. However, there's a psychological feeling that they worked for 10 or 20 or 30 years at the company.
And they earned it, yeah.
And this is like a benefit that I'm entitled to, and I earned it, so I'm keeping it. But a lot of those types of plans companies are, really evaluating the the cost efficiency of it, and hey, is it better if it's a cost savings for us and it's a better service for these people? So I see that trend where more and more companies are going to continue to drop the group retiree plans, and that there's going to be more going on the private marketplace, and some of those companies will choose to fund them with a stipend to go get coverage, or some of them without a stipend. But regardless, I think the result is going to be that the Medicare Advantage numbers are going to continue growing. We're going to continue to see the FPL, the acronym Federal Poverty Limit, keep getting up higher. So more people are going to qualify. You're going to have more people on duals. So again, I think that between the income related and the dual push combined with the retirees, you're going to have more of a segment continuing to grow into Medicare Advantage. So for the naysayers out there, look, we sell supplements too. We sell plenty of them. However, we're going to continue to see monstrous growth on the MA side.
So 2024, green lights still for Medicare and lots of green lights for ACA going into 2024, despite all the turmoil and things going on.
Yes, and that is my last message too, just to wrap it up. You almost had a perfect ending to the podcast there, is I talked to people on a call and had a meeting with brokers in person. I actually said, look, I wouldn't worry about the CMS. We've been there. We've been down this road before. We've dealt with changes in the industry, and I'm not worried about it because people are freaking out saying, oh my gosh, there's some fear mongering out there. I've seen some content from other people that are, oh my gosh, is this the end of FMOs? No, absolutely not. That's just fear mongering. And like everything, change and disruption that's happening, you have to find a way to win and make it positive. And we already have all these plan A, plan B, and plan C in place. And again, I'm not worried about it. So, if you're out there and you're an agent and you're listening to all the fear mongering and you're concerned, I wouldn't be. It's just going to be more opportunity for the people who understand how to navigate the waters. So,
yep, absolutely.
All righty, y'all. Catch
That's
you
all
next
we got.
week.
Thanks, guys.